morning, Malaysia. How are you?
Oh, I am good.
I,
I had some good news just before we started, which is my dog
I
went missing.
know.
We found her
I
back.
know. Yes. And I can see the difference. You're
Oh, yeah.
you're shining now. Yeah. Or a glow.
Yeah, for my Luna. Anyway, so good morning. So I like your background today.
Yes, I'm in a different place today. We should not get into the details of it, but I thought I'll try with a virtual background, which I'm not really a fan of, but let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
And I thought we can experiment because we've got a guest who's really adaptable, resilient, and courageous. So he's put himself in our hands and to host him today. So let me tell you a little bit about him. Yeah. So I met Reuben late last year. Yeah, and the first thing that struck me about Reuben was that his openness, his candidness, and his honesty, and his willingness to listen, I think, was something that struck me and why was it that it struck me? Because I thought, here we are with a senior leader, and it was so easy to connect with Reuben, right? And I was a part of a project the ongoing project with Reuben and his team. But let me tell you a little bit about his background, right, Malar? Did you know that he graduated as a mechanical engineer, right? It's like amazing, right? A mechanical engineer. And what he's doing right now is like so different, at least to me, all right? That's all about engineering probably that he did. Then he first started his first job in pharmaceutical industry, in sales. And he never my language. He never left the pharmaceutical industry till now, right? I mean, what has a mechanical engineer got to do with the pharmaceutical industry? So he was in sales, he was in marketing, he was in all the pharmaceutical brands that most of the pharmaceutical brands we all recognize. He went into commercial operations. You see where I'm going with this? He's kind of like an all-rounder, right? He led the country team for a pharmaceutical organization, Takeda, before coming into his current position as general manager of Healthcare Alliance Pharmaceuticals with TKSH here in Singapore. So let's bring him on stage. I think we need to have Reuben's vibrancy on stage to add to our own. Okay, then we'll go a little bit crazy.
Yeah, I can't say as much as you said, but I know that my first impression and the lasting impression he left is that he is extremely bold to be himself, which is I think the power of the authenticity that he brings in. Okay, let's bring Reuben up.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Reuben.
Good morning, Sharm. Good morning, Mala.
Good morning, Reuben.
I'm good. Thanks for the kind words. But at one stage, I thought my head was in your hands because you sounded when you do the introduction that my head was in yeah. But
I can do you justice in introducing you. Yeah.
Thanks so much for the kind words, and thanks so much for the kind introduction.
Oh, most welcome, and thank you for saying yes, because a part of the success of these of our shows is who we invite and who says yes to us, and the conversations that we have on air for the next 45 an hour or so. Yeah, so I thought we'll get things going so that we have as much as we can share with the audience, and for the audience also to ask you questions. I know when we were talking about we were chatting in our pre-show conversation last week. You talked a little bit about your childhood and also what drives you. My first question was, my son is a single child, so And this is partly because I'm also wanting to see what's going on in his head. Or see whether it's, so what single child can be very, me oriented. A single
Me, I
child can
myself.
be, do me and myself. Yeah, a single child do what you did, which is go down to the playground and look for friends and build community. Tell us a little bit more about that, Reuben. What was your thinking at that time? Why did you do it? What share with us?
I mean, just to give a bit of context, right? So I'm going to be very honest here. Single parent, only child. My parents separated when I was 3 years old. Only child, and my mom had to work. Right? She left me with my grandparents. So I grew up with my grandparents, and to look for friends, and obviously you want playmates, right? And the only way, having my parents being my mom living with my grandparents were in their 60s back then, right? And they're not going to be playing Nintendo with me, or playing at the playground downstairs playing badminton, right? So we stayed in Old Airport Road, in those flats, the rental flats, the 1 bedroom 1 living room rental flats. But what's amazing is that there's always badminton courts at the ground floor of it, and all the kids just gather, right? We play all sorts of games, right? You occasionally we play badminton on the badminton court, but a lot of time you are playing catching around the blocks, police and thief. If you fall down, so be it, you just get up and you just play. It's also during this stage whereby all the neighbors know each other, because the blocks are facing each other and all that. They face down at the badminton court. And if your grandmother is screaming at you to come up for dinner, the whole block knows, right? Like get up and all that, right? It's that sort of neighborhood. Then you have the and that network, or that group of neighbors that you have. There'll be somebody that in the evening they cook extra and they sell nasi lemak. Another neighbor that sells ice packet, the seng pao that we drink when we were young. It's that sort of neighborhood. And then another one runs a convenience store, those, before the 7-Elevens of the world, the mini convenience store in their own home. So that was where I grew up. And that's the type of neighborhood that I grew up. And you look for friends because they're of the same age or slightly older or younger, but you play together, right? And then you play at the drain, you play at the longkang, you play at the canal that's nearby and all that. But it's that sort of environment that I grew up with. So, granted, missing siblings, but then I have a close group of friends, that you just play with and all that. And I went to a neighborhood primary school that's just walking distance. And what happens is that most of your classmates, my school was just 10 minutes walk away. And most of your classmates would stay around the same neighborhood. And after school, you end up playing together, right? That was the type of environment that I grew up, that you could see what a group of people, can get up to, or your neighbors and all that could hear when you're being screamed at by your grandma, or your or likewise, if your grandma can't find you, by word of mouth, somehow know where you are playing, which block you are up to no good at.
To the package. So how did that experience shape you, Reuben, as you grew out of that community, and you moved into university, work life, your even as you grew up in adulthood on your personal life. How did that shape you? How did that experience?
I think one of the things, being at such close proximity, right? And I realized, for example, my grandfather spoke really good English. My grandfather could write very well also, and all that. He was English educated, even though back then, it's not that easy to have an English education and all. So the neighbors will reach out to him when they have letters, formal letters and all that they couldn't understand the content, and my grandfather will help interpret it, or if there's a reply that's needed, my grandfather will help out. That community that works together, they and then you watch out for your neighbors and all that. I can't speak so much that over the years that has carried on, but I realized in that small community, and I got to be very honest here, right? We were not the most well-to-do, the whole group of us, right? Collectively and all that. We are living in rental 1 bedroom 1 living room type of, those flats, right? but everybody just watch out for each other. I didn't even have a toilet bowl back then. Okay, I've got to tell you, it was a squatting toilet, and yeah, built up good thigh muscles since then. Yeah.
Yes, makes for very good travel resilience when you go into countries that are not so developed yet.
But you realize that watching out for each other was important. But it was never about, one of the things was, it's never about whether everybody got wealthier or everybody you wish the best for everyone, but you just want to watch out for each other. I thought that was a very key thing. That part in my childhood whereby you watch out for your neighbors and all that, and then the support local business, because once a week we'll have nasi lemak because we buy it from the neighbor, or we go down to the or I was not a huge fan of seng pao, so I didn't really take a lot of that. But you just collectively as a community or a neighborhood, you work closely together to ensure that everybody's looked after.
Yeah. And how did that translate when you first moved in, when you got into the workforce? That looking out and watching out for each other, that support for each other. Like today is nasi lemak day, tomorrow is ABC day, and as much as you like it or don't like it, you go support that person, right? But watching out for each other's back, how did that play for you? Tell us a little bit about that. Draw it out for us so that we know when you walked into the workforce, a new phase in your life, how did that come through for you?
So, this is going right. I graduated in 2005. In fact, I started working the day before my convocation. Just to give a bit of context, I was desperate to get into the workforce and enjoy. And I realized that the environment that I worked in, from when I first started work, didn't have that watching out for each other. I'm going to call them that I had. I'm not going to call it toxic leaders. I'm more of like negative leaders. That's what I'm going to really share, right? Sometimes it's a very much of with a mantra of a divide and rule. That people shouldn't talk as much, people shouldn't communicate. The leader should be the one holding the power, holding the information and all that. And I struggle with that. I really struggle with that. I actually put it in my list of what not to do instead of what to follow, but what not to do when we are leaders, right? And I thought that was that if I ever get that opportunity to be in a certain leadership position and all that, I need to learn from all these negative experience and how to build a team stronger. I have seen of such environment whereby people don't have that same motivation, right? They just go through the motions. It's just getting a pay. Okay, we go home and all that. In workplace, and this is tough for me because you spend so much time in the workplace, right? And beyond, it's just like going back to my experience of in the playground. You spend so much time in the playground and then you go home and have your dinner and all that, right? You're spending with this group of people and all that. If you're interacting with these people, you are building up relationship with these people, shouldn't more be done? That was one of the things that I struggle with in the initial stage of my career, in the environments that I've been with. So as I share with you now and in my recollection is really that effort to make sure that how can we build a safe space, for people to grow or people to interact and to share, and what everybody should or try their best within this small little community or workplace that they are spending so much time together, that they want the best for everyone, the best outcome for everyone, or how they can grow together, right? And I always felt that this was very important. I have seen teams that have done well. They're very close together. I'm going to break down in my career into blocks of 5 years. In my first 5 years of my career, I've seen a team that worked very well. I worked with a very close team. The salespeople were close. But I'm going to be very honest. The reason was we all reported to a manager that we didn't really like. And collectively, we became very close because...
one against, yeah. One all for one and one for all.
We were such a close team. I tell you, the five of us that reported, and we were such a close team. And it's unfortunate, right? But then you can see together the teamwork, we share, we find out what are our success, what is our failures, and we figured it out. And for that 1 year that the team was together, we were really strong, we were tight, and we enjoyed success together, even though the manager that looked after us wasn't the greatest. And then after that, opportunity comes along, right? And one leaves. And I tell you, collectively, one by one, within the next 12 months, the whole team was gone because all of us had other opportunities. So I mean, being in the workforce, one thing I know, the community is going to form if you can, but they won't last forever, right? They won't last forever. But you want to build one that where people come in, they are growing, and when they leave, they are much at a better place than when they were when they first joined, because it's a evolving environment in a workplace.
I'm going to ask just one more question, Malar, and then and then I'm going to pass it on to you. So when you say the community doesn't last, but when we're together, let's make sure, let's evolve, let's grow, and let's support each other. What have you done personally, right, to build that community in the early stages that you're doing? What was your contribution towards building that? And so you collectively looked at that leader that you are reporting to and say, what, this doesn't cut it, right? And instead of saying, heck care, I'm just going to leave, the five of you kind of found a way of working together, and you did it pretty well, right? So what were the things that you did? And that's amazing. That's amazing that it's self-leadership and team leadership, pulling it all together, right? What were the awareness, what came to your awareness? What was the knowledge or the skills that you had to call on to say, what, we need to pull this team together, right?
Yeah. So I'm going to share, certain concepts and all that I was quite particular. I mean, I'm going to jump ahead, into this later part of this, the third 5 years of my career and all that, the last 5 years and all that. And having this opportunity to move into a leadership role, looking after, like you mentioned, in Takeda, I was a country head, right? And when I stepped up to the role, I can tell you, when I joined Takeda back then in 2016, Takeda had a reputation of being a rotating door. People come and go within 12 to 24 months. And to me, that was a struggle coming in and all. And I can give you this really an experience of when I was about to join Takeda. I had a colleague that was with me in Novartis, and she put me one side. And she said, "Oh, where are you going?" I said, "Oh, I can't tell you yet. I hope you're not joining Takeda." And I went, "Come on." Yeah. And then one of the things when I joined, was only looking after a small business unit and all that. I was building up the team. I was joined to build up the team, and then after that, I look after the collectively the country as well. And I think one of the things and all that, and back then in Takeda, we had a trainer that was based out of Malaysia and all that. That still remains a very good friend to today. And the first thing we did was we ran a training, Speed of Trust. I could tell you, we ran that. And I was so adamant that within the first month that I was the country lead, we ran that training. And then those who were not reporting to me previously, whether they were the sales team, they were a few lines away from reporting to me and all that, I gathered everybody. I had coffee with them, and I literally spelled out what good looks like, the success of how we're going to do for the year. I shared with them the numbers that we want to achieve, where we're going to, how your success will lead to my success, and that's tell me how to help you. So these were certain things that I ran along, and I thought it was important. They got to trust me as a leader of where I'm going to lead them, because I know previously who was looking after the team and all that was very sheepish about sharing information. And for me, and I think Sharm and Mala, you have spoken to me, information is out there. It's about whether you are willing to share and all that. I'm not going to hoard all this information. I'm going to be very honest here. I believe as a leader, it's not about how much more information I have than you. As long as it's not, private and confidential information and all that, right? I can share it. Sales targets and all that I have had, worked out with, set up by global or my bosses and all that. I'm going to be very honest. This is what we need to do to be successful for this year. right? So that aspect of it is very important. Building up that trust with the people that you're working with and that transparency. I feel my job as a leader, okay, beyond just having all this information, is actually how I digest this information and how I interpret it and how I, the outcome of where this information is. That I'm being paid for that machine that runs up in my head, that really analyze it and get out the outcome. Strategizing how do we, as a collectively, as a team, which direction we head in order to achieve the goals for the year. I think that is about leadership. It's not about hoarding of information. And this goes back to my first 5 years of my career, where I work with leaders of, divide and rule. And a lot of information is hoarded up. This is really about talking about that negative examples that you have, and you try not to follow as much.
Emulate.
Yeah. So and I realized that by having that, running that training of that speed of trust, and doing that, and these people put together, it reached a stage whereby, guys, you just, we were as a team. I have about a group of 20 reporting to me, right? And we will have lunch at the pantry together. We just go downstairs and pick up lunch, and then we go back to the pantry, and you see this big group of, we had a nice long table in Takeda's pantry, and you see like 12 or 15 of us having lunch together, almost on a daily or alternate day basis. How often you see that? And then I had, one of the colleagues say that, this is a team that he's enjoying working with and all that. But I was also frank enough to share with him, and I think this was like 2 or 3 years ago. And I shared with him, look, this doesn't last forever. I was honest enough to know that. Yeah. Because people will grow, and you won't have all roles for everyone. And you just have to accept it. Yeah. In my role in Takeda, and then going back to Takeda, because I spent a good amount of time. I spent almost 6 years there. In fact, I was the longest staying member before finally leaving last year in my Takeda. I had a few of my people who reported to me got on new roles. I had a business unit manager that got offered a role in Takeda, Taiwan. He moved in April last year. I got another colleague, another person that was reporting to me, who moved on to that role in another role in Takeda, also in Asia Pacific, Takeda Asia Pacific. Yeah. And all this, that at that part of building up the team, that people are supposed to grow. You need to accept that. And you should also take pride in that other aspect also, in how.
Yeah, and I can see that you do take pride in that. Yeah,
I just tell you, yesterday I just got a message from one of the salespeople from Takeda, and she dropped me a message. She said, "Reuben, just want to update you, man. I'm moving into a new role in another company, but I, got a new role, and I know she's been wanting to move into a marketing role. So she dropped me a message yesterday in the evening when I was leaving work, and I said, I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy for you. I know you've been wanting to get a marketing role. I'm so happy for you. I said, please reach out to me if you need any help as you move into a marketing role. I think, yeah. And that I came home, I shared my wife, and I say, I'm happy, I indirectly or directly, I have played a part in this person's life because of working together for the last, 5-6 years in Takeda. And I'm just, and that part of it is, building the team is also wanting to see people grow. That community building has to have an outcome, and you want people to do well.
Thank you for that. I was just going to say, I was just going to ask that question, whether, how you felt about people leaving when they grow, okay? And sometimes when they grow beyond the shirt or the, the outwear, the outfit that they're wearing or being in, how comfortable does that sit with you? Malar, over to you.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether I had the same question for him, actually, for Reuben, because I think what you're saying is ideal. We read about it. I mean, we read about leaders, who want to encourage growth, and we talk about quotes where we take pride when the student is better than the teacher, sort of a thing, right? We talk about it, we read about it, right? But whether it is truly practiced, because I think a lot of times, so for me, when I work, with organization in terms of leadership, one of those things that I've always wondered is that, we have a leader in a position for a very long time, and you have his or her team, right? That's been there for a long time. But often enough, when the leader leaves, there's no succession planning, right? And that puzzles me. It puzzles me because we have all the resources and we fall into the same pattern over and over again. I can understand if the transitions are short, right? But here you are giving us totally a different, not so much of perspective. I think you're giving us the right perspective, but in practice, right? So in practice, so it's practical application, right? So tell me, you build bonds, you build very strong bonds, right? Which is fantastic. Just in the examples that you've illustrated, how do you prepare yourself as a person, right, to be so attached and yet detached, so that you can let them grow and go?
Yeah. I think as a parent, I need that, not attach and detach.
Yeah, I got to tell you, it was tough living Takeda. It was tough living Takeda when the role with DKSH came on. Because you build up this success, right? This amount of success, we did so well. We were overachieving year on year. We hit all the necessary goals and KPIs that we had, right? It was so difficult. But one of the things will be, and this goes back to, okay, I'm going to talk about my selfish reasons before we talk about. I think I need to grow too. And a big part of it, why this role in DKSH that I'm in now since November, was about growing. Some personal challenges and all that. The personal challenge is not about the title. It's not about okay, money, pays the bill. Let's not avoid that. But I'm going to be also say that we earn enough to be comfortable, and you don't just have to go out and move to a new job. You buy a bigger house and bigger car and all that, right? You do that. Taking that away was also that challenge. Back in Takeda, I know I could look after a team of 20. The 20 people could spend time with me. I got time to spend with that 20 and grow with that 20. Now moving into DKSH, now I have a team of 70 odd. It's more complexity in the business. I tell you, that was the challenge. It reached a stage in Takeda whereby I knew that I was not being challenged. I went into an autopilot mode in 2021, and with COVID and all that, working from home and all that, I got to be very. My boss knew I was cruising. My boss for today, who in Takeda, who I'm going to give a shout out to her, Miss Michelle Obi. She was a big part. I reported to her for a good 4 odd years, and she's a huge mentor in my career. Even now, I still speak to her and all that regularly, and I appreciate the how she drove me. She was the one that really, goring me when I'm, have put my foot off the gas and all that, right? Because she know how much more I could do. And when the last year in 2021, I just realized that I could get this done. This was, this is in me already. I figured this out, It's like a Rubik's Cube. You figured it out already, right? The 3 by 3 by 3 is you figure it out already. Now you're trying to find the 5 by 5 by 5, the more complex Rubik's Cube. And to me, it was like, I want to figure out what the skill sets that I've built in my last, 17 years of working, can I bring it to another environment and see how I can lead this team and what levels can I bring it? That is my personal, that I want to take on. Okay. I believe that everybody should go through growth in their career. At whichever stage you got to stretch yourself and all that. I mean, you could check my LinkedIn, profile and all that. Every step that I've done in my career to date has been deliberate effort to take on more responsibility, more roles. I never believe that you're 100% ready for the next role. I think you should be 80 to 80% ready, and then you stretch yourself for it, the additional 20%, to really drive yourself. And that stretch, that drive, is where you're going to put in the extra effort to be successful. And this leading this team and all that now in my first 7 months, and all the learnings that you have comes into play. You just got to keep reminding yourself, going back, things like speed of trust. And another huge concept or learning that I'm very keen, I always endorse is, for example, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits. Yeah, I got to tell you that remains this like pinned to my wall, right? Like, guys, things that we got to do and all that, Okay, the first few things are quite easy, being proactive, being an end in mind and all that. But the things that you need to really figure out with a bigger team is how do you think win-win? Or even the simple things of how do you prioritize, right? I always pride myself back in Takeda that I go home in the evening with 0 unread emails. Until I come to DKSH and I'm like, how do you reach?
How does one do that?
Yeah, how does one do that, right? And all that, but then going back to the 7 habits, the very last habit is sharpen the saw. You got to constantly get better. You don't just stay at where you are, because change is the only constant, right? There's so many cliche that I can share, right? But it's so it was very important for me to be growing, to be stretching. So if yeah. And then now going back to teams, and now that you know that you need to grow and stretch and all that, right? Then the people that reports to you or you work with and you have mentored and all that, and is there a time to grow? What happens? And you just I gotta tell you, and so going back to I'm going to give a shout out, right, to my business unit manager that moved to Taiwan, and Lionel's been still a close friend and all that. When Lionel spoke to me, because one of his sales reps was leaving, I could still remember we were walking, we were going out for lunch, and he said, "Oh, this sales rep is leaving. We train him for slightly less than 2 years, and he's leaving, right? Then what do you do?" Then I look at him. We hire someone and train again. He was like, "What? Yeah, you just hire someone and train again. You just keep training, right? You just keep making people better because you're making a difference. You're getting people to a next level, right? And beyond just thinking about how well you can do and why you should keep this person and all that, right? You got to understand they have their growth journey, and you should take pride that you were involved in that growth journey. How people goes up to the next level."
Nice. I'm going to just read out what Luis Marias is echoing. When you genuinely want your people to grow and you feel proud every time one of your team member moves to the next level, that is an extremely good leader who has tremendous amount of love and care for his people and indicates a good leader. Well, I'm just going to disagree with Luis and say not good but great. I think it's not difficult to be a good leader, but to be a great leader, to want, so Luis. So I'm going to use everything that you said, but I'm going to just change it to great. So, I love. I think one of those things we probably share is the idea of growth, right? Growth mindset. So you've said a lot of things around, why it's important for you to stretch, right? I'm very curious to know, have you ever met people in your team, right, who probably love having you as a leader, but don't share the same motivation for growth? They are like, yeah, I need a job. I'm going to do my best because, Reuben, I report to you, but just don't stretch me because I just want a 9 to 6 job. I don't share the same value as you, right? Now, how do you then deal with that? Because you seem to be very, very driven by collaboration and growth. So what you seem to be doing is that you are very centered around purpose. You build your community, and then you want them to grow, and that's your make a difference statement. So tell me whether you've had and how do you actually manage them?
Yeah, I think going back to being a leader, I think one of the things that we as leaders need to very quickly assess where everybody is at different stage of the career, right? We need to be very quickly assess, and going back to I'm a huge person of looking into sports, right? And then also team sports actually. And I always thought team sports and, for example, football is always a good reference and all that. And you have a whole bunch, people are all playing different roles. And people are, very good analogy, and everybody is playing a different role. Everybody, there's a goalkeeper, defender, and all that. And then at the same time, all of them are at different stage of their career. Not unless, you're talking about the youth team and all that, but in a professional team, they're all at different stage of their career, right? Some of them just want to stay in the team and they can stay in the team for 15 years and they just retire with the team. There are some that, wants to go for glory, and those that, wants to keep winning titles and all that, right? You get all these different analogies, and then you can, just reflect it, mirror. In your own team, you have that, and you need to be assessed to see where these people are. You could quickly got to, assess where they are and what is their personal motivation. It's a must for a leader. We need to know the personal motivation. What's the point of trying to drive somebody who is, I'm good with status quo, boss. I'm good with status quo. I'm happy where I am. But at the same time, you must make sure that they don't slack, right? They get too comfortable. You need to assess whether if they get too comfortable. And my boss in Takeda knew I got too comfortable. She literally told me that you're getting too comfortable in my last assessment back in April last year. and she was trying to figure out a way of how to stretch me. So you need to assess when they are too comfortable. Okay, even though they want to stay at status quo, and then you got to find out what motivates them. Meaning that the bar that you set for an individual that you say that are quite okay with status quo will be a very different bar than somebody that I want to do more. I want to be that person and all that. You need to vary the bar. You can't set a constant bar, right? And where they're going to go to. The level of training you provide for the person, the level of guidance and all, the conversation you have will be very different. And this going back to the point of as leaders beyond that, the fact that, like I already said, we don't hoard information. We are transparent with information, but what we are, paid for and all that is obviously how we think, how we analyze the situation, and how we strategize. And then the other part of it, we must never forget, obviously, is the people aspect, right? We have a bunch of people that we are leading, and they are all different, right? Going to the fact that they all look different and all that, different fingerprints and all that, you got to understand they are a sum or they are product of different experiences, right? Likewise, I'm the sum and product of different experiences. That's my psyche. All these that reports to you have different. And I got to tell you, my biggest struggle is, back then, going back to Takeda, I have 20 people that was reporting to me. I could find out their personal motivation, and because I have conversation with them. I struggle now, right? And this is whereby I need to build good leaders that could tell me and how we could build the team, right? That psyche behind and all that. Beyond just taking the whip and come on, bring in the numbers and all that, right? Is that, what motivates or what drives these people, and how do we get them to the level that, I think that's very important. Yeah. You don't want to be in a company whereby they are just concerned about the short game, right? The numbers of delivering every month. You want somebody that is more concerned about what's the long term of these people that you work with.
Right. But Reuben, why care?
Why care?
As they say in Singapore, heck care.
Yeah. Hold on. I've got a longer version of the question.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I think what you're bringing out is the ideal that we aspire, right? Pay attention to every individual, marrying personal and professional goals, organizational and personal goals as well. You're saying that all very well, right? But in reality, when we look at business leaders, you have got the business strategy, you've got a lot of business challenges to manage. And what you seem to be doing is paying a lot of attention to individuals to understand so that you can tie that up at your level, right? As the head. Why bother? It's so much of hard work. Come on.
Okay, I have to admit, it's hard work, right? The short game, the numbers. Yeah. Okay, in my career and all that, I had the opportunities to go through certain, leadership assessment. Okay. Discovery insights, for those who are aware. And I'm a classic inspiring motivator. That's where I fall into. And then the other assessment that I've done was Clifton Strength Finder. And then my number one strength is that is communication. My number two is my second strength is relator. And only a third my third strength is competition. So I'm still competitive, right? It's still in the top three, right? But then but you see that relationship matters to me. You see, going back to my strength finder and I realized they all link up, right? The opportunity of going through all these assessments. People was always something that's very dear to me.
Nice.
Because people are dynamic. People is alive. Every other issue, everything, numbers, issues that you face and all that are dead. And people are the only one true dynamic. And human relationship matters a lot to myself. And that's why I've been a big driver of how I've been, shaping my career.
Nice. I mean, you are truly a people-centric person. That you've now
Quite
sealed it.
obvious.
Yeah, sealed. It's like everything else builds around the relationships and people. Sham, I've got one like dying, burning question.
Us.
Like, um, you're driven, you're excited, you love people. I mean, you're the ideal leader that most people would want to work for, right? I can tell you more applications will be coming.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope.
How do you? So I love the idea that you bring in personal motivation. You try to understand what drives individuals, which is fantastic, right? How do you? Because we are in the space where well-being is of great concern, right? So you are inspiring, you fuel people, which means that people probably will jump, further than they can on their own with the field that you help them with. Fantastic, right? How do you ensure that the stretch that people are experiencing is not overdone, i.e., overdone, that we all tend to become very ambitious to a point that we get stressed. It affects our well-being, it affects our balance in life, right? So how do you, as a leader, right, how do you play that out with you?
I'm not sure I'm the best. Yeah. I'm not sure I'm the best person to share this, but I'm going back to I'm open, right? I'm very transparent. For those who know me, I'm 42 this year. 14 years ago, when I was 28, I had kidney cancer, stage 2 kidney cancer, right? 3 years into my career, I had that was really real, right? That happened, right? And then, I had my left kidney removed. I've been with a single kidney, my right kidney, for the last 14 years. We've been doing well. But then I can tell you, it's a real thing, right? How do I balance that stress that I do face in my role and in the current health condition, if you want to call it, that I face with? But certain things that I go through and I can share is that after that incident, you realize a few things. Death is real. And you got to mind you, I was in my 20s, right? Then this happens when you're in 20s. And 20s, I am going to be going out there and just say it on a limb. Nobody think that anything can happen to them. They're like bulletproof, You go on drinking binge till 3 a.m. and next morning you're up at 7. Yeah. But that was very real, right? And then now, how do you balance that that certain health conditions and all that you will potentially face and all that? But then a part of it is that you got to remember, does that become your excuse? You guys, does that become your excuse that, and at 28, I could say, then why do so much, right? Take it easy lah. Yeah, what's wrong? Nobody's going to fault you, right? Because, but then the flip side of that, you realize that because your family and friends that gather around you when you have the episode, then they also got their own life, and you're left to face your own demons. I'm going to be very honest here. You face your own demons, right? And then after that, you just put certain things in action. I had after when I was hospitalized and I got home after 10 days, I could tell you I struggled to walk from the car park to my home, my flat, right? I stopped for every 5 meters for a breath. That was up. And then a month later, even with a huge 40 cm scar, and I started jogging. I said, no, I'm going to do it on my own terms. And then I did at 32, I did the Penang Bridge half marathon in 2 hours. 4 years down the road. So you still you do things on your own terms. You got to remember that. And so you're going to tell me that. So like I said already, if you're going to ask me that question, am I the best person to talk about dealing with stress and all that? But then you yourself, as you grow in your journey and all that, you have to understand where are your limits and all that. I know I will never do a full marathon because my surgeon was like, no, not with one kidney. No, you're not going. I said, okay, I'll do half a marathon. Okay, see how fast I can do it. I work around it. Right? And then you just do more, you do achieve more and all that. You work within your stress level and all that. It always helps to have a nice steak and a glass of red wine. Food provide some pleasure. I'm just going to be very honest here. And then also that journey and all that. And I could tell you there are certain things that I shut off. Malar and Sharm, you guys on Sundays or Saturdays, you guys going to be hard pressed to find me, right? Because I go into a shut-off mode. And this is where I really have to go back to my being a father. Because I know Monday to Friday, I spend so little time. I mean, I got beautiful opportunity to spend a lot of time with my daughter, watching her grow up during the COVID period, work from home and all that. But now I'm back in office and all that. And I try to make it a point that I could rush home to kiss her goodnight before she goes to bed, but sometimes it's tough, right? And this is Saturday and Sunday whereby, I got to be the father that, and that, I could tell you, spending time with her, and she's now 2.5 going into 3, right? And that takes away a lot of the stress. I mean, I got to, you just got to find you just got to find your comfort place where the stress level just go. And that's what I'm going to tell you, right? Some people buy a new watch. Some people buy a new handbag. Nothing wrong. I'm going to be, the guilty pleasures, I absolutely endorse. I'm not going to say there's something wrong with that, and if that eases down that stress level, releases endorphins and get you, that high and all that, go forth. For me, it's a glass of wine and a nice steak and really watching my daughter grow up. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. I love it when you said you need to understand your limits. I think that puts us squarely back on track, right? It starts with you. It needs to end with you. You need to know when a stretch is no longer a stretch and it has gone into a stress mode, right? So you can flip either way, right? You can go into stress, or you can go lift the leg off the pedal and cruise, as you said. Right? Yeah.
I mean, I can also share. I mean, I just read yesterday, right? My in DKSH, I have a new HR director. I'm going to give a shout out to Daniel. I'm not sure whether he's in this call, and he shared about tough times don't last. Tough people do, right? Another cliche and all that, right? And this is whereby you got to, the tough people last because they know how to balance that stress level and all that. If you're going to go into overdrive the whole time, trust me, you're going to burn out. All right. And then, or if you're not just going to relax, you're not going to be tough. You're not going to be resilient. So
very nice. Very nice. I think Vernon's question is a nice conclusion and close to our session this morning. Vernon, thank you for joining us. Vernon, good morning. What is Reuben's best strategy as a leader to minimize office politics and maximize transparency across the office floor?
So thanks, Vernon, for the question. I think the key here, and I'm going to be very honest here. I was speaking to my HR business partner, I think back in when I first joined DKSH. So he was saying that people like to talk and all that. And I said, well, I'm managing a group of salespeople. They naturally like to talk. It's just in their nature. But so those salespeople down, in the corner are like, Reuben saying what about us? But the key here is that people are naturally drawn to building communities and talking, right? They are drawn to sharing and all that, right? Yeah. The key here is that what sort of you want them to talk about negative things or positive issues and all that. I think that's the one thing. If they're talking about negative, they're talking about things. You need to know as a leader, firstly, if are you even aware of the politics that are going on or the cliques that are forming? You need to, as a leader, embed yourself, be very open, be able to sit, with your teams. I can tell you this whole month, I'm having small group gatherings with my, those that are not those reporting to me, but the further downs, I'm having small groups of coffee, breakfast with them, just to understand what are the difficulties and all that. I think it's very important. You got to embed yourself as a leader. Don't sit in your high chair. Get down on the ground, know what's going on, what are the difficulties they face and all that. Learn about it. Okay, that's number one. And then I think the other thing is the transparency. Don't always rely on your leadership team to share. If there's need to be, and now that we have that aspect of virtual, means now more than ever, the Zoom and the Teams that we use, conduct, town halls to very openly share strategies or where we are at and all that, to be very transparent across. Because sometimes your message, you play the game whereby you pass the message from the front of the line to the back of the line.
Yep.
You know how much get lost. Certain message need to be across the board to the whole team. Make the effort to share with the whole team. Or likewise, me, as I go into this small group, I'll be sharing things that I'm thinking of where we are moving forward in the rest of the years and all that. That same common message. And as a leader, when you're that transparent and you go across the board and all that is the same, same message, then you will bring in a lot of positivity already. That naturally brings that positive because they know that they have a leader that is telling the same thing to every single person. I tell you, tough. I've seen and what is a leader pull one person aside, tells this person, person A this, and person B has a very different message. There's always a cause for concern. Yeah. I mean, but thanks for the question, Vern.
Nicely said. Nicely said. Thank you so much, Reuben, for giving us your hour this morning, very, very early this morning. And if I can see your 2.5-year-old, I'll thank her as well for giving Daddy up a little while so that Auntie Malar and Auntie Sharm can have a chat with him. Thank you for your generosity and openness in sharing. Another cliche, there's someone who walks his talk, you are it or you are he. All right. And that's been my experience as well. I mean, when working with your team, one of the things that stood out for me and Meenakshi was that the fact that the team was safe enough to ask difficult questions to each other. And I think that's a very clear indication of, and do it with third parties being present, right, and everybody being on board or on the same place. I think that's a mark of what you've created so far in your 7 months in DKSH. So thank you very much for sharing a little bit of your life with us, Reuben. Have a great day.
And thanks so much.
You're most welcome.
Bye, Mala. Bye, Sharm.
Thank you very much for Reuben for inspiring us. And I think for me, my greatest takeaway, if I can say, is that you've put back ideals where it belongs, for people centricity. And at the same time, you are helping us to balance it with practicality by knowing realistically what our limits are, right? So, and I think that's the greatest thing that I take away from you. And, that the fact that, you share so openly about your personal health and how that has actually, I love the way you said, don't use that as an excuse, right? I think that will hit the nail really hard for those who think, we have our personal challenges and we need to now really look at whether it's an excuse or a reason. So with that, thank you very much, for inspiring us this morning. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
Yes. Happy Father's Day.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, ladies.
You're most welcome. Anything else you'd like to say before we? Yeah.
No, I just thank the opportunity that I could share my story, and then to the next time then that we catch up.
We will. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Reuben. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye. Whoa, that was
that was flow profile, flow leadership in flow in practice. Knowing when to lift your leg off the pedal, knowing when you're lifting it too long, knowing when you're stretching yourself, and that 4% stretch is what we're looking for, not the the moving into stress, and taking ownership of what it is that's that you need to do in order for you to do the best work that you want to do, to build the community that you want. And how do you do it? By fostering relationships that are open and transparent. Wow, amazing. Amazing.
I think your new background is giving you new superpowers of summarizing.
Oh yes, huh? I think it's the light that's shining, shining straight in my face.
All right, nice summary, Sharm. So, yeah, it was lovely having Reuben. I think we've taken quite a bit of their time.
Yes.
So, thank you very much for those who have joined us this morning with your question, and all the quiet followers. There were about 9 of them quietly just listening in. So, I want to thank you. I hope you've been inspired. For those who are catching up with this later, connect with Reuben, connect with us, follow us. We are also on Spotify. So know that if you can't watch us, you can hear us. And hopefully this has helped you to get into your own leadership in flow. With that, thank you. Till we meet next Thursday, same time, well, same place. Bye.